Hello everyone, and welcome to another Thursday. That means it's another Gear Talk. We do these every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Today, we're going to take a small break from the comics. I've been wanting to sprinkle in Hivebuster stuff here and there because a long time ago I already did the Hivebuster comic discussions and I got all the Hivebuster stuff done, all the comics. I kind of pseudo did a mini review for all of them. So I figured while we're doing all the comics, I might as well sprinkle in some Hivebuster stuff to show they're not forgotten. It's not that I don't want to do their chapters or anything. It's just I already did them a while ago. A long time ago I did them. I don't mind redoing them because I feel like I could do better, but we've covered everything possible about the Hivebusters. So there's some info here and there I'd like to talk about involving the Hivebusters at least, because even though we covered the characters, we covered the comics, there's still portions of the story and the world that they helped create with the Hivebuster side of it all that I think would really be nice to cover. Like, for instance, today's video is the Hivebusters initiative, their actions, busting hives, is it working? I think that's a very good question to ask, which is what we're here to talk about today. Because if you look at the current story, the furthest we have in the timeline right now actually falls on the Hivebusters. Because with the Hivebusters comic, that takes place after the Hivebusters DLC. The Hivebusters DLC takes place randomly around the time of Gears 5. But the DLC does jump forward a little ways, covering like their second and third missions. And that mostly is about where the current story is in their hive-busting expeditions and what the current like ETA on like succeeding in their mission of taking out the hives and where we find all that. So let's kind of just jump into it and kind of just go over if it's working or not, what we know about the Hivebusters, the project itself, and what Hoffman had in mind for like ending the swarm when it came to all of this. To cover everything and get the answer of is it working or not, the initiative and the act of hivebusting, we kind of have to talk about what hivebusting is in general. So hivebusting itself is the idea of, the original concept we'll go with, the original concept of fighting your way into a hive. Once you're inside of the hive, letting off a detonated device that holds like concentrated, at the time it wasn't called venom, but a concentrated poison that once it's in there will seep through the hive and destroy it from the inside out. And any swarm that is in contact or originally from that specific hive is killed off and dead. So it doesn't matter if you're in the hive, outside the hive. If you were originally spawned from that hive and you have the hive mind connection to that said hive, you're dead, you're gone. And you would go through hive after hive and just one by one eradicate them and take them out at the burial sites. That was the fully original intended plan. That has changed quite a bit since we got the Hivebusters DLC, the Hivebusters comic, and Gears 5 in general. That has changed quite a bit. The original plan was to send in the Hivebusters and fight your way in, get to the middle, take it out. That did not originally work. The whole idea, a lot of the things, it was a very prototype-ish type of plan, just fell through. The first thing was trying to get into a hive from the outside in. Very hard. There are so many swarm when it comes to just the juvies, the drones, the scions, the wardens. We're going to touch on wardens a little bit in this video. Breaking into one is nigh impossible when it comes to a small covert team of 3 people. It's just not going to happen. Scorpio learned that the hard way and said, essentially Mac, but all of them understood, it ain't going to happen. That's why it was also under the idea that these missions were suicide missions. And to what we currently have for the Hivebuster operations, they still are seen as that way to this day right now. Essentially, setting off the bomb is already success. Getting you out of there is the secondary objective at that point. And they only need the primary, the first objective to go through. So once you're fighting your way through, you need to drop off the bomb, the poisonous bomb that's in there. The next problem they ever came across was that bomb, that poison, it's not strong enough to outright just take out the hive. The hive does get damaged, but you have like the higher up creatures, like you have like with the snatchers, and the higher up like the scions and wardens, they aren't really affected by it too much. Their genetics are kind of to the point where they've evolved past being damaged by those types of poisons. So it doesn't really harm them. Might cause them to cough and get sick, but it's not going to hurt them, and the hive is still standing. So that was the other big problem they came across. And the second problem was trying to escape when you fought your way in, aggro's everywhere, and you got to get back out. So those were the biggest problems they found. So the first ever mission they did, it was a failure, it did not work, and they had to scrap it. So they just couldn't do it. That was the original idea they had, But then they had to start evolving it to kind of make it work, where you had members of Scorpio like Matt coming up with, okay, if they just took us in there, we could probably just take them from the inside by surprise and fight our way out. And you also had it where the Wakatu, it turns out that this poison it's shooting out is really dangerous and corrosive and just starts wiping out Swarm when they touch this thing. What if we could get our hands on some of that? So that's where we have the culmination of what we had for, by the end of the Hivebuster DLC, that variant of the Hivebusters, that plan. The new plan they had was, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a device that you're going to put on your face, and a tube's going to go down your throat. It is not pleasant, and they're still working on getting that thing to work properly. And once it's in there, it's basically going to have a timer on it. So when you get taken in and potted, it's going to knock you out, because potting puts you unconscious. Once you are potted, that device is going to have a timer. When the timer goes off, it's going to wake you up, and it's going to give you oxygen. And when you get out, you take that thing out, like you're taking an alien, like a face hugger off of Alien, and you set the bomb, and you make a run for it out of there. You have about 60 seconds once you hit that button, get running. And then we're going to get evac on the outside of wherever the hive is, and we're going to get you out of here and safe. That was the plan. And that's where we get escape in that mode in Gears 5. That's basically what it is. The original premise they still had for the damages it would do. That was still something that they weren't very aware of. As we learned from the Hivebuster comics, it's not as simple as just you put in the bomb, it goes off, everything ever attached to that hive is now gonzo and done. It did not work like that. As they went through in the comics and they set off their bomb and they were making their way to extraction in another town, another city altogether, they actually came across other swarm, they didn't come across scions, but they did come across like the drones, and it was seen that they were from the hive they just took out, and it was under the idea of just, okay, so we did take out the hive, everything inside of that hive at the time it went off, they are gone, but anything that wasn't in the hive is still alive. So for instance, let's say like you have like a 5 drones, okay? 3 of them leave to go do like some kind of mission, find humans to bring them back in pod, and 2 of them are left behind to, I don't know, play cards and play guard duty, something like that. If that bomb goes off, and the 2 of them that are still there are hit with it, they are dead. They've been hit with the venom. They are kaputski. But the 3 that are still out of there, essentially their hive mind connection to their hive has been like severed. They're no longer connected to that. They still have an overall connection to all of the swarm, but their actual connection to their hive is gone. So it's like you have your overall and then your main. Your main is now cut off, but you still have everything else here when it comes to like the mental connection. So that's still a thing. So those 3 are able to still wander around. We don't know if they can go and attach to other hives or if they're just kind of just random stranded swarms out in the world. We don't know. But we do know that they still operate on the main cognitive function of fight humans. That's still there. We know that when it comes to like the juvies and the drones, they have a very primitive mindset, which it gets amped up when you have a human host on, like with Reyna. But just on like a basic thought process, they are very dumbed down. They don't think of just like, ah, yes, tactical planning, what we're going to do. It's more of like, yes, serve the queen, must serve queen. That's what they're dealing with. They learned that you can't just wipe out all of them together. And originally, it wasn't that big of a problem because it was under the idea of, okay, if we can't wipe all of them out, we can at least take down their main areas, take down the burial sites that have been turned into hives, and we can at least fight the stragglers, which Lonnie, a member of Scorpio, is very well adept at doing. The Brash Brigade, the members that she was with, and like the group itself, she fought on the same type of thing that they would have had to have done, because when Adam's machine went off, the countermeasure, that didn't kill all the locusts. There were still locusts that were alive, and the Brash Brigade was sent out to clean up those just random locusts that were still out, that were just here and there in small pockets. Brash Brigade was sent out to do that. Lonnie is an expert at this. Lonnie would have no problem. Unfortunately, we go to our last piece of source material, Gears 5. There's a bit of a monkey wrench in all of that. So do you remember when I said we'd get to the Wardens? This is where we get to the Wardens. So the Warden itself is basically a high-ranking scion. Their job is to essentially play guard duty. They're a warden, a prison warden. Play guard duty at the hives. They're the big cheese. They're the ones that are swinging around the breaker maces and saying, you know, get off my property. That's what they do. But there is another thing the Wardens do aside from being high-ranking and playing guard dog. Their job is also to go out into the world and find other suitable places for emerging hives. So the other big kick in the nuts when it came to the Hivebusters was that there wasn't a set amount of hives. There could always be more. And the warden's job is to go and do that. So as we learn in 5, we come across a warden out and about looking for a new area. They can go out and just start a new hive. A hive can be set, started, and now there is another hive. So let's say effectively you take out one hive, but a warden's already set up another. There's still, we're back to ground zero, back to square one, all of that. So the wardens play a big role in being like a sore toe, sore thumb, a thorn in the ass when it comes to the Hivebusters, because they can go out and essentially set up or begin new hives. We don't know the process of how it's done. We just know they're the ones set out to find new places for hives. Whether they start them or they bring something over to start them, like some kind of brood mother swarm, we don't know. But we do know for a fact that the warden's job is to help find more and make more. So that was another big problem for the Hivebusters, because then it comes down to, okay, not only does the original plan blow and we had to evolve that, but we now have to deal with the fact that we can't just eradicate all of them by setting off the bomb in the center. No, if they're outside the hive, they're safe. And they can make more of them. So now we have the biggest problem of, okay, how exactly are we going to stop this problem? Which comes to the question of the video, is the Hivebuster operation of busting hives, is it working? And the best answer I can give is technically a yes, with the fattest asterisk you can put on that. So I want to say no. I want to say the actual answer would be no. But it just so happens that the idea itself can work. The problem we have right now, however, is the fact that not only can more hives be created, but the problem lies with the Hivebusters themselves. The Hivebusters were created by Victor Hoffman. Colonel Hoffman himself created the Hivebuster initiative in order to take care of the swarm problem with how he saw fit, actually having the offensive against them. The problem is, however, is that not a lot of people agreed with that, especially a certain leader of the COG who, kind of a bitch, Jin. Jin essentially said she's not going to do it. She believed the DBs could do it, which Hoffman and many people were like, no, the DBs cannot handle this problem. In fact, it comes up in 5 quite a bit. They are not calibrated enough to fight them. They have to be recalibrated and respect to fight. They are mostly guard bots. They're not made to fight an army. So they're going to work on the DBs. Hoffman said, no, we can do something better. Him seeing how effective Operation Hollow Storm was back in the Locust era was like, okay, what if we did that same thing? We attacked them from the inside and we took them out from there. We go on the offensive. Because understand, up until the end of Gears 5, even at the end of Gears 5, humanity is only on defense. They have not had an offensive yet against them aside from the Hivebusters. And that's important to say because the Hivebusters are not affiliated with the COG. They are a rogue operation. They have COG members, but they are not a part of the COG. They are their own thing, which is a very big hindrance because the fact Hoffman funded, pulled all the strings he could, used all his connections to make the Hivebusters possible. Hana, she is not a part of them. The scientist, the mind behind all this, she is not a part of the COG for this. Random rogue spec op group going in. Alright? You have Lonnie, Mac, and Keegan. All 3 of them are not on the books for the COG. They are not fighting for the COG. Lonnie getting out of jail was Hoffman pulling his cords and pulling his strings. That was not the COG saying, yeah, let her out. No, he was the one who did it. He was the one who promised Mac revenge. He's the one who told Keegan, hey, how about you come on back and you fight for old Colonel Hoffman? And Keegan would have said yes in a heartbeat for that. They are incredibly underprepared for the level of a task they're trying to take on. So you have it where there are 3 core members that go in, and they're expected to take out these hives and fix the swarm problem. You can see where the problem is. And in the current story, the furthest we have in the story of Gears of War, we currently have, one of them is out of commission with a broken leg, one of them essentially has like busted ribs and a broken arm, and then one of them who is still able to actually participate, being Lonnie. We have like 1.5 out of the 3 that are suitable for combat right now. And that's our best line of defense. And if you're wondering why I keep saying defense and everything, it's because they are the only one on offense. They're the only ones going in there and trying to slow everything down. Their original plan was we're going to take him out this way. The new plan is This is going to be how we slow them down, because if the wardens can keep making them, well, if we don't do anything, they're just going to keep popping up everywhere. At a bare minimum, we can at least eradicate some of them and get them out of here. So even if there's more coming, we've at least gotten rid of some. You see, like, it's a slow growth instead of exponential like the swarm were originally doing. Now, right now, the reason I said yes to everything, and obviously I've been kind of just throwing some feces over at the Hivebusters for their ill-preparedness and how they're not ready for this. In theory, like we said, it technically can work. In theory. At the end of 5... we do see how there's kind of a plan or an idea to have an offensive now. They're going to go after Reyna. They're going to kind of go and attack. Let's say hypothetically, I think it's still a guesstimate. We don't, until 6 comes out, we're not going to know. They're going to go after the big main hive. It's theorized there's an actual main hive that's controlling everything. They're going to probably go after that, which is where the Hivebusters come in. I could see it because they haven't come across one another. The main story and Hivebusters have not converged yet into one. I could see it right now where once 6 comes out, and this is all just a theory at this point, they're going to come together, and it's going to be the idea of, okay, we need to get in there and we need to take out this hive, or at least get a way in, and then destroy it from the inside out. Maybe the idea will be if we take out the main one, the overall everything will collapse then. Maybe that's their idea. And they'll probably be like, well, we don't know how we're going to get in there. Do you know how much of a fight it is to get in? And that's where, I don't know, Hoffman will be there, or maybe, I don't know, someone like Mac is going to kick the door open and be like, well, I'll tell you right now, I know a way we can get in there. And then that's where you have the Hivebusters, where it's like, we're going to Hivebust our way in. Everyone's going to go in. We're going to work on setting off the bomb. You guys work on dealing with the whole Reyna Mira situation. Let's do it. I could see that being a thing. So I think for the current time being, they're basically just slowing the advancement of the swarm when it comes to their army. But in the future, there's high possibility the Hivebusters can be useful. Very high possibility that they could get the main cast, Kate, Marcus, depending on who's alive between the ending. I guess still spoilers, I won't say it. And then, I don't know, maybe we have D. Carmine, the fourth and final brother, decides, like, you know what, I'm finally going to come into the games. Let's do this. They're going to go in, and it's just everyone going in and attacking. Because, as we've seen, the beasts themselves, the Snatchers, aren't that privy to, like, oh, they're wearing masks that'll get them in and, you know, they'll come out and fight us. You know, it's not like they haven't done this multiple times already. Oh, let's just pick these guys up and do it again. They're not thinking on that kind of level, unlike a Scion would be thinking that, a Warden would be thinking that. No, it seems like the beasts are very one-track minded of grab the prey and bring them back. Very bestial and for the hive kind of mindset. So, to sum it all up, essentially, is it effective? Currently, no. Kind of, they're slowing the advancement of the swarm, but they're not stopping it or even stalemating it. In the future, it could be extremely effective given the right... Like, imagine COG. Like, give the COG all the funding they can to the Hivebusters. Imagine the level of that operation. That would be nutso big. Imagine, like, all the hives at once being attacked by Hivebusters, bombs go off and everyone comes out. Like an army of Hivebusters. That would be something to see. A Hivebuster game spent only on the hive-busting operation. That would be fun to see. So, I think that's going to do it. I wanted to do one involving the Hivebusters. I love giving them credit. It's one of my favorite groups. It's my favorite DLC of them all. And I felt like it was just a nice place to really throw some things in since we're close to the end of the year. Kind of just, you know, talk about the Hivebusters. Give them their shine because... since I won't be recording their comics since I've done it, we can at least talk about them still. I love the characters. I love their portion of the world they're in. It's just a fun time. So I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone for making things possible. Thank the patrons for making things possible. And when we come back, more Gears of War, baby, every single time. Later!